Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, 100th episode. Woo! Imagine confetti and sparklers and balloons. So 100 episodes of just Katrina and I BSing our way through an hour, using, working with, experiences, knowledge that we've gained over the years, and some things you wouldn't believe, some things you would, and hopefully supporting you all in your growth while we learn from each other. I'm always learning from Katrina, and I just want to say 100 episodes. Thank you really isn't enough. When Katrina reached out to talk to me about what we could do, I was flabbergasted, I guess is the word I wanted to use, because I wasn't sure if I was worthy. I guess I struggle with worthiness issues sometimes, and so I think so highly of you, and I appreciate just who you are more than what you bring to the table. What you bring to the table is an absolute bonus, and so 100 episodes later, I'm in disbelief.
And when we had that conversation, this was now, for those of you who don't know, this show debuted August 2nd, 2021. And you and I had just a couple months before gone through a really painful emotional experience together, and did a lot of processing from that, and a lot of just supporting one another through that difficult thing.
100%.
And I'm grateful that we were able to come out of that as close as we are, and that everybody involved in that painful thing seems okay and in a good space right now. So that was good. Hopefully it was a learning experience on some level for all of us. But boy, that was tough. And we were just trying to figure out what would come out of that. And also, August 2nd, 2021 was about 37 minutes before I went through a huge crisis, which was on August 16th. So exactly 2 weeks before.
Wow.
And so we could not have looked at then where we would be now.
Oh my goodness.
In our naivete of believing that despite having gone through huge loss, we still believed that some things would just never end. And so, born of that was just this idea to never take anything for granted. And, 100 episodes, we made most Thursdays. There was Thanksgiving Thursdays, and there was time you were sick, I was sick, or we had something going on and we couldn't, because we don't ever want to half-ass it. We want to make sure that when we're signing on that we can give everything we've got, and that our bullshit pontification is going to be on point. So I'm just happy to be here with you. You're my sweet boo, and I'm just thrilled to have you as, it's kind of like, I don't know if you're my spirit daughter or my spirit sister or just my spirit person, but your tribe. There's no denying that. And now we've kind of pulled Eric into our CD web, and he's sold on the Dahlia Kool-Aid. So here we are, and here you all are, and we're so glad that you're here with us, and we're going to do something fun this time. And I hope. So you know how speed dating works, where you just kind of go from table to table and the timer goes off when you move. What we did is we researched what were our top 10 most popular broadcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And the topics that those were, and I want to say y'all are some emo motherfuckers. You just the things that were popular were almost entirely about emotion and dealing with those sorts of feelings and how to manage different parts of it. But there were a few in there that weren't. So after our introductions, what Dahlia and I are going to do is we're going to go through the top 10 if we can get through them in an hour. So
Right.
Well, it's like 3 minutes, 4 minutes per topic. in addition to our introductions and our wind down and all that. So y'all stay with us. It's going to be fun. It's a wonderful magical mystery tour. But here's the catch. I did not go back and rewatch all 10 hours of all 10 episodes. What I did was I watched enough to hear Dahlia announce what the topic would be, and I read the description and extrapolated from that what we did. So what we actually talk about and what I wrote down as the topic might be completely different than what the
Which
show
is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
So
new for the people who missed it.
Yeah. So if you ever want to see all of our stuff, you can go to, and we can put the link here, but it's youtube.com/c/Crossroads of Cognizance. And that will take you to our YouTube channel. And it's going to look weird because they're under live. You have to click on live because we are doing live streams to get to our videos. Hi, Crystal. Otherwise, you're going to see a lot of our teas and crones, which are also great, and some other stuff. But go to live and you'll see our newest stuff. So that's what I got. And I don't know, who are you? You want to start with you? I kind of
like introductions, right? 100 episodes. You should know who I am by now.
I know who you are.
No, the audience. Yeah. You have to go back and watch to find out who I am. Okay, introductions. I am Dahlia Rose, just like it says in the little corner here. I am a teacher, a healer, a messenger, an oracle, a conduit, like all the woo-woo terms you could probably think of that embody support systems. That is me, a born caregiver who has made a career out of overgiving. And wow, 100th episode. I'm going to say soon to be author. That way on our 200th episode, I'm held accountable. Where's the book, Dahlia? Where is the book?
That's right. I'll be right back. My dog's losing his mind. Hang on.
Sure. But more than anything, I am a lover of all things woo-woo and magic, and my commitment to the people that I serve is to make it accessible, to make it personal, because I think we're all here to figure out what metaphysics, spirituality, and energy is to us personally, so that we can make the world a better place. And normally this is the place where I would throw it to Katrina and she'd say, "Hi, I'm Katrina Rasbold. I'm the only Rasbold. If you Google me or if you hop on Amazon," but I'm gonna let her finish that up. You guys, while she's finishing up with Elvis, it's great to see you all. For those of you who chime in every single week, faithfully or not, like sometimes we catch you guys every other week. Either way, it's exciting to have you here. And it's going to be a great show, I think. So I'm just going to kick some shout outs here. Hi, Debs. Hi, Crystal. Looks like we've got 7 folks online at least now. So thank you for joining. Again, I'll reiterate, we are on our 100th episode. So you guys are in for a treat as we recap. 100 episodes ago, this show was, what's funny is this show has gone in 2 directions. And I don't think Katrina mentioned this, but when we first got on YouTube, we both had, thank you, Rob. Thank you for the congrats. We both had stores, and we both had, they were both, so hers was witchy in its making, and mine was like witchy / spiritual. Both places were for anybody and everybody who was curious about life, energy work, metaphysics, witchcraft, spirituality, and all of those things, because they were spots where we welcomed others to reacquaint themselves with themselves. And so we were both shop owners, did different kinds of events. Katrina did a lot of amazing classes. I actually got to partake in some of the online versions of her energy work classes, and I did crystal classes and different things. And the originality of the show was the kind of crazy conversations we end up having with others, or consistent themes that we see both on the East Coast and the West Coast. And then, like almost simultaneously, as Katrina is one of my mentors, she closed her shop, and I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling it too. My lease was running out. And so I closed mine, and we were both in at least the closure predicament, but on opposite ends of the spectrum. Katrina had done years and years of work. I had done some years of work, and was just going into a different vibe as far as spirituality is concerned. And so the show then took a different turn where we started just going through various topics. And then I guess it's taken even a third turn now where we are digging through Reddit for very interesting responses to spirituality in life. And so here we are, 100 episodes later, after all those iterations. So that said, Katrina has introduction.
I'm Katrina Rasbold, KatrinaRasbold.com. I wrote some books. I do readings for people, spell work for people, and spiritual cleansings for people. That's me. So find me at KatrinaRasbold.com. That'll take you to everything I do. So, yeah, my dog is 18. And in 2021, when we started, I never imagined this thing would still be alive.
Aww.
And so, of course, I take him out to do all of the business he could possibly do out in the world before we start. And on the day that Eric's not here, you know, he's over here clawing my leg the second we start, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So leaving. Our first topic is an interesting one. And this actually was one of our first topics. And that is the path of the witch versus witchcraft, and magic versus manifesting. Now, I'm trying to remember what all we talked about regarding this. It was a long time ago that this episode aired. So I would say that when we're looking at being a witch, it's one way of being in the world that is expressed and manifest in many, many different ways with people and many different identifications. Interestingly enough, I just did for greeneggmagazine.com on our blog. I run a video blog there called Ask a Witch, and it's where I reflect back some of the questions people ask me through the week. And one of the questions I got asked this past week was, what is witchcraft exactly? And I had a woman that her name is Kat Gina Cole, who runs the blog with me and is one of our columnists as well, as just as I am. And she sent in her column, which I do the posting for the columns, and it was, what is witchcraft? And so we had both gotten that on the same week. And I identify as a witch. Dahlia, I think, does not.
No.
And so what I was expressing there is that witchcraft is actually, there's two positions to it. One is the word witch and one is the word craft, where craft is doing things with your hands and producing something toward an outcome. And witch is the fact that you identify as a witch. And it's not about, oh, you have to be initiated this way, or you have to be a hereditary this or that. It's about, do you identify as a witch? And are you doing something with your hands to produce an outcome that, in theory, involves some sort of the directing and usage of natural energies that are available out there. So that's how I identified witchcraft. Whereas I would say witchcraft is also a very powerful energetic working. I think that when somebody makes a wish and blows out a candle on their birthday cake, that is spell work, that is a type of energy movement toward a goal. You can manifest most certainly and not identify as a witch. You can practice magic and not identify as a witch. And it's all got to do with the terminology you use for the way that you engage energies. And that being said, nobody gets to say, and this is my controversial part of my speech here, nobody gets to say, you're not a witch.
Well, people like to say it, but they don't get to.
do. And you just don't have the right to say that, because
Right.
self-identification is a huge part of witchcraft. And the reason it is because there was a time it was very dangerous to identify as a witch. And
Mm.
in some places, in some areas of America, even, it's still dangerous to identify as a witch. And so actually owning that term for yourself is an act of courage, because you may be rejected for that, or you may be in danger for that. So if you are going to the trouble to identify as a witch, I don't think anybody has the right to tell you you're not. That being said, I see a lot of witches who try to convince those who don't identify as a witch that they are a witch. Oh,
Interesting.
you go into church and you light a candle and you pray for somebody.
Oh, you're talking about those people.
So you're doing witchcraft, you're doing spell work. You know what? If somebody does not want to identify as a witch for whatever reason, just even that it doesn't resonate with them, or they don't want to call what they do spell work, you don't have the right to sit over here in your armchair and think, well, it's spell work. I don't care what they say. You know what? If they say it's not, it's not. You get to call your practice and your energy movement anything you want to. And let me tell you, we are in a unique time where there is a huge glossary of words you can use to describe what you do. And so it's not anybody's business how another person identifies, whether they're saying which or they're not saying which. You don't get to pick. And you only get to pick for yourself. And so just kind of like your nose.
Right. I was just thinking that. I was like,
You only
everybody
get
has a
your
nose,
own.
but you can only pick yours.
So I would say now, I might not have said it 2 years ago, but I would say now that the path of the witch is a very specific choice and nomenclature. Witchcraft is part of manifesting, because if you don't really want something and really wish for it, your manifestation is going to be compromised. You have to have the energy of that desire behind you. So that's what I've got on that. What do you have, Dahlia?
I do not remember what I said back then, because I think I'm conflating two conversations where one, we talked about, I had somebody reach out and ask if they were a witch because of some of the things that they were doing. And I just politely explained to them, like, if you want to be. So I definitely fall in the category of self-identification. If that's what you do, if that's how you feel, then that is what you are. I've definitely seen folks definitely rally against uh, like religions and churches and things like that, where their uh, outward facing persona is really just to disrupt the norm, as opposed to identifying fully as a witch. They just want to sort of make people uncomfortable, and that, I mean, that's fine, as long as you're not causing harm, physical harm. um, and then there is, I have friends who fully practice different aspects of witchcraft and being a witch. One of the things that I love about the practice is, so the personalization of it in terms of what practice looks like. So I have some that are out every moon with their water, calling in the quarters, doing all the things. And then I have others who are like, shit, I forgot my water, but they feel no less like a witch the next day. So I don't really have like a definitive definition of what that is outside
Mhm.
of um, it seems to me like a way to connect with some sort of divinity, be that nature or a deity of some kind, of some sort. Um, and then I didn't get into the crafting piece. I think you defined that very well. I would say I probably have more leverage in this part of the conversation for wishcraft and manifesting, um, just from the perspective of, I try to teach people what it means to heal for themselves and how that healing can help manifest things or hinder the manifestation of things. Um, and so wish crafting for me is getting clear on your intention, and then finding correspondences that support that desire and intention, but also working to heal any limitations, disconnections, corruptions, blocks, or things in your field that would keep space between you and what you're asking for. Um,
Mhm.
so, and I think everybody, I mean, maybe I'm being one of those people right now, but I think everybody performs magic in some way, some way.
You know, I think everybody manifests,
Yeah.
whether they're intentionally manifesting something that they want and making an effort to do that, or they are practicing some sort of, and we have our feelings about law of attraction, but about what they're bringing to them. One of the things I love about identification as a witch is when I wrote Crossroads of Conjure, I was remembering a lot about Appalachian granny magic, which is what was around me when I was growing up. And what's funny about that and the identification of witch is in Appalachian granny magic, the word witch, as Rob was pointing out with some of the ATRs, was absolutely abhorrent. Witches were maligned. They were not something you ever wanted to be. They were horrible. They ate children. They made your cow not milk. Witches were to be avoided at all costs, except our witch. And our witch is really wonderful. And so there was always like Granny so and so, who was the village witch. And all witches are bad except our witch. And so every village kind of had that. But the identification of witch was something that was really cumbersome and undesirable. And a lot of that does go back to that persecution, of when you were going to die if you were a
Yeah.
witch. And all of that also involved things like, astrology or palmistry that have nothing to do with witchcraft or any type of divination. And still, you could be labeled a witch and killed for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my talk on that. Now the next thing we have is, come on, this is a big one. And I think in some ways, this probably came through to at least half of our messages, half of our broadcast. We talk a lot about boundaries. We talk about a lot of self awareness. We talk a lot about accountability, self accountability. And because you and I both serve the public, and because you and I are both parents, those are two things that kind of marry up for us, because we have to look at, okay, well, we have responsibility for these people that we brought into the world, but
Mhm.
we also need to set boundaries as humans in order to make them better people and more self-reliant people. And we need to be aware of our needs and what we need, and as well as our accountability, and relating that accountability to the public and relating that accountability to our children. So this was a pretty heavy topic that we went into. And I don't remember, back then we had situations that would happen on both sides that kind of brought together, like you were saying, our topic of the week. And I don't remember the exact situations, but that need to set boundaries was a big thing. And all of those points, and the way that that gets fuzzy when it involves our roles of healer in the public and as parents.
I vaguely remember the conversation. More than anything, though, I remember how many times boundaries was always the answer. like
Lord,
we'd get in a topic
yes.
and it'd be like just boundaries and or self-awareness. And so I remember discussing boundaries as flexible. And I
Mhm,
still believe
independent.
that to this day, still teach that to this day. A lot of the folks that I find myself around or supporting, um, when we have conversations about boundaries, it'll start bringing up examples, and I'm like, that's a wall.
Yeah.
Good. That is a healthy, strong wall you've got there. But it's not a boundary. It is a keep away from me wall. And so boundaries definitely needing to be flexible. Some days you'll have it, some days you won't. The other aspect of boundaries is that they have consequences. I recall having that conversation with you as well, Katrina, on show, that they must have consequences if they're actual boundaries. Walls just keep people out, but boundaries say if you're going to continue to treat me this way, then these are the results.
Right.
And that leading into the self-awareness piece, I think they're interrelated, because the more self-aware that you are, the more you can apply said boundaries, either pulling those boundaries in and allowing people close to you, or expanding those boundaries and creating your own island. And I remember you speaking, Katrina, about when serving the public, the importance of boundaries and self-awareness to not basically bleed all over your clients as you're going through a situation. Properly taking time away, breaks, addressing your own healing and things of that nature. And I one thing that was different maybe then, that one thing that's changed from then to now for me, I would say, is the emphasis on that not working with tons of people when you are out of it. I've seen a lot of people in recent years, because 100 episodes in this year, we've been on for more than a year. So I've seen a lot of people over the years sort of take the stance that, no matter what they're doing, especially with Reiki, that it's positive, it's pure, and that would be, I believe, a mistake. If you're not aware of what's going on with you, you are limited in what you can see in others, and you could potentially spill some of that onto your client, and they'll feel it. They will walk away from a session um, feeling an additional burden, perhaps, or whatever it is that you were going through. So, and the parenting piece, God, the only thing I remember saying about that was, I try to be like authentic with my children. I don't try to sugarcoat where I am mentally or emotionally, so that they can see how normal emotions can be. I remember the first time I heard my oldest son say, "I've never seen you cry." I quickly remedied that. Not in the moment. I didn't just burst into tears, but parenting, boundaries, self-awareness, and serving the public reflected in my parenting life. I guess all I can say is I'm trying to do better. I don't know.
We all are.
That's what
Listen,
I got.
my kids are old. I'm still trying to do better. On the Reiki piece, I always hear Reiki healers say, no, it's okay. I can compartmentalize that. I can just tuck that away and do my job. I want to be available. I want to continue to be there for my clients. I have an obligation to them. And I agree with you. The obligation is to come into your clients when you're clean. Now, that doesn't mean you're perfect. There's going to be times that, you have years where you're not 100%. But, you never know. You think you do, but you never know how empathic your client is. And they're very open and very vulnerable when you're working on them. And so it's just so important that you are in a really good space, even if you've got stuff going on, that you take that time to get into a good space when you're working on them. And regarding boundaries, like you said, if you set a boundary, you better be ready to put up or shut up. Because it's the most common boundary I hear is, you cannot talk to me that way. You know what? Apparently they can, based on the evidence. And so the answer is, you cannot talk to me and remain at this level of importance and position in my life. And you have to be willing to back that up. If they can't honor the boundary that you have set, you've got to either decide that you're going to let that boundary go, or that you are going to enact some consequences and distance yourself a little bit from that person. Now, one thing I have learned in the last 2 years since we talked about this is something I love, and I don't even remember where I got it. I wish I did. It sounds like a Brene Brown thing, but I can't swear to it. I love that notion that how offended people get when you set a boundary, because they think it's accusatory. They think it's saying you're not good enough, or your behavior isn't worthwhile, or I don't like what you're doing. And to some degree it is. But if somebody is going to the trouble of setting a boundary with you, that is an act of love.
It
That
is.
is saying, I care enough about you. I want to keep you in my life. This behavior doesn't work for me for whatever reason. It doesn't matter what the reason is. This behavior doesn't work for me, and I love you enough to set this boundary so I can keep you in my life. If you will honor this boundary, I can continue forward with you. But
Mm.
again, put up or shut up. At that point, if you've lovingly set that boundary and reasonably said, this doesn't work in my life, and that person knows that and makes the choice to continue the behavior, then you have that right to say, this isn't going to work. But yeah, always view somebody who's setting a boundary with you as an act of love.
100%.
Speaking of love, our next one is love and the obstacles to love. Go girl. Oh, and also the side, like the subtext to that was soul contracts.
Oh, okay. Um, I definitely I kind of feel like I should have gone back and watched the shows.
I think
So
you
love
did.
and obstacles to love. On soul contracts. So what I can pull from now, um, so I recall us talking a lot about um well, okay, I guess I
I'm
can't
gonna
recall
go.
anything.
So we were talking about were ideas like twin flames,
Oh,
and that I know this is the person I'm supposed to be with,
oh yeah.
and so I must love them and marry them and squeeze them and call them George, and they have to be my exact person forever. And I think that this was where we went into that idea that yes, you may have a soul contract with this person. Yes, you may be intended to share time with this person. That does not mean you're intended to sleep with them. That does not mean that you're intended to be in love with them. And it might mean that you are intended to learn a lesson about love from them.
Or open a taco truck.
There you go. Continue on this theme about the taco truck. That's what I got.
So okay, thank you for jogging my memory. I remember talking about the soul contracts and how, before we come into this plane of existence, we try to organize what that could look like, and then soul contracts are broken all the time. Twin flames are, I shudder at that still a little bit, and now have Netflix evidence of why you should shudder at it. Please go see Twin Flame University's documentaries.
Yes.
And
Oh my gosh.
oh my
I
god.
on my cult deep dive, which is still underway, and I've seen everything you see about cults. That was on my radar for that. Good goddess, holy shit! Them people were crazy.
It's pretty nutty. I feel bad for the victims, of course. But in that pursuit of love, and acceptance, that got corrupted. Um, so even in going to like soul contracts about that, they had a contract with each other, and I think that some contracts were broken. So love is multifaceted. It is not just interpersonal. It is not just romantic. And the faster the world gets a handle on that, the faster we will probably be less depressed. For starters, wars could end too. I mean, a lot could happen. That's what I have.
I had an example of this, and I really want to bring this home to y'all that this is real. Um, I had an experience where my husband, not Eric, my first husband of 17 years, had left me for someone. And I didn't know what to do, which way to turn. So, what do we do when that's happening? We whip out those tarot cards, man. My
Yeah.
tarot cards were very clear that on September 6th, which was the day after my birthday, I was going to meet the man who would change my life forever.
Hmm.
I met one person on that day, and a male. And let's just say that they were not a person I would normally connect with. And due to some triggers of how they reminded me of someone in my life who had been abusive, I just, it was Jesus in Gethsemane going, let this cup pass from me. I was weeping and I was upset, but I was like, you know what? Okay, I got, obviously my plan for my life isn't working out. So I'm in your hands. Just okay, let's do this. And so, of course, I started a relationship with this person I really just didn't like very much, not realizing that maybe that wasn't the relationship I was supposed to have. And a couple of months later, about a month and a half later, that person introduced me to Eric.
Ah.
And so they were somebody that changed my life. But not in the way I was interpreting that to mean. And the exact words were, this is the person who is going to change your life. So, yeah, it doesn't always mean you're supposed to, you know, you're not supposed to necessarily change your vagina. You got to take that into consideration. And that twin flames thing, man, I have seen the idea, the words twin flames create so much abuse.
Yeah.
For people, so many ruined lives. And that's not even the cult. That's just y'all out there talking about your twin flames. So the next thing that we have is kind of like that, more love talk, and it is emotional labor and things left unsaid. Go.
So I have an addition to this one. Finally, right? Dahlia's come to life. So the emotional labor piece, I have been exercising more boundaries around mental load, and I think that has enhanced my awareness of emotional labor. So we talked about emotional labor being holding space for people and what we do to support them both professionally and personally, and that there is an energy that's carried from those moments, and sometimes you're helping it, sometimes you're like pushing a boulder uphill, or you know a, a a baby out of a person, an energetic baby out of a person. And so, you know, we talked about emotional labor being so much. I'm not recalling the things left unsaid piece. So I may need to kick that to you.
I'm not sure what that was about specifically. I think that we had both had a situation with throat chakra issues with our clients and people not saying things that they very much needed to say and employing discretion or even fear of rejection, fear of even abuse, because there were things that they needed to, truths that they needed to get out that they weren't confessing or saying, and that was creating discord in their energetic field, which certainly is the case. Anytime I'm using a pendulum on somebody and that it starts going a little bit nuts or it's blocked up at the throat, I know this person has an issue around communication. I know that they're either not feeling heard or they're feeling like they literally can't say the words that they need to say to their partner, their parent, their child, whatever it might be, and that's causing disruption. So it was just mostly, I think, a piece on making sure that you're standing in your truth and that you're conveying those truths in a, how can I put it, an understandable and reasonable way. I think that a lot of times we tend to share our truths in times of high emotion, and that is not always the best time of expression for us.
Right.
And that becomes emotional labor. And I just had an experience on a discussion of emotional labor where people that were close to me, a couple, was having an issue around the idea of, and I want to get the words exactly right, weaponized emotional something ineptitude, basically.
Okay.
And it was a person that felt that their partner was intentionally playing stupid about what they needed in order to not provide that. My impression on talking to the partner was they're not stupid. They just really are not getting what you need or understanding what you need. And so it's only weaponized emotional ineptitude if it's feigned. And in this case, I didn't feel that it was, and I felt bad that I couldn't back that person up, but I really felt like that there needed to be deeper conversation about that emotional labor and about the expectations that each of them had and about the way that those needs could or could not be met. And sometimes emotional labor and things unsaid is being able to say, there's something you need from me that I do not have the capacity to provide for you.
Right. Right. I
So,
can recall conversations about capacity as well. Like, if there's a neurodiversity issue
yes,
or anything like that.
right.
Uh,
Absolutely. And that kind of brings us to our next topic. I don't mean to rush us, but we got 15 minutes to get through 5
15
more.
minutes, 5
We may
more.
end up just saying this is a 2-part episode. Anyway, we've talked a lot about managing emotions, and in this case it was more or less about I have all of these emotions. I think this is what the episode was about. I have all of these emotions that I'm feeling. I'm still a human, you know, chop wood, carry water. I still have things I have to do, but I have all of these emotions. And my approach, I believe, was, you know what, emotions are like the weather. Wait a little bit, they'll change. And also about the idea of seeing emotions as transient in the terms of water over rocks, just allowing those emotions to be real and acknowledge and flow over you rather than allowing those emotions to define you in some way.
I think we also talked about, in terms of letting them flow over you, the need to avoid them getting stuck because they'll cause disease and other issues.
Yes.
So they need to be expressed in some way that might be writing, art, dancing, moving, journaling, whatever the case is when it comes to managing
Agreed.
emotions.
This is tough. This is always a good one to work with people. And that is the art of receiving.
So this one, I remember you telling a story about people supporting you and you not wanting it. And you were like, but sometimes you have to take what people give you. I still kind of resist that.
Girl.
I, 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 I think I can say thank you. But I have a resistance to, like, if you're giving me something that you feel like I need, it costs me more to take it from you than it does to just,
That's
like,
so
say,
fucked up. You got to work
is
on
it?
that. Yes, it is. And because it implies suspicion and ulterior motive to anybody who just wants to be nice to you.
I don't know. I disagree on the suspicion part because it's not suspicion. It's just, if I,
It's
so
facts.
as a person who hates wasting things, if you give me something that I don't need, it is going to collect dust. I'm going to
Oh, that
struggle
you
with
don't
throwing it
need. I thought you
away.
said something that you need.
Oh, no, 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 no.
All right, I take all that back.
Okay.
I misheard it. I thought you were saying somebody's giving me something that I need.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah, and I was like, girl, that's jacked up.
No, no, no. If I need it, if I've expressed a need, or at least, like, I haven't showered and I need soap, like, that's helpful. But if you're bringing me like a Christmas fruit cake, sorry, like, it's very
Yeah.
sweet. And now I am going to die a little inside as I put that in the trash can because I
Oh.
feel
So
bad.
everybody should check with you before they do anything for you?
No, I
How
guess
would you
I
manage
want to live.
that?
I want to live in a world where my rejection of something is flexible. like like you see that I'm grateful. You know that I'm grateful. I've expressed my gratitude. But you give it to me with an openness of use it or don't. Um,
Mm,
that's what the world I hope to live in.
okay.
But that could be a fantasy. Who knows?
Got it. Okay. So, that pretty much colors anything I ever do for you in the future.
You are perfect with that, by the way. So, like, intuitive witchy friends, somehow it always works out. So
Okay.
I don't ever have a negative experience with that. Like, I shouldn't say never. I don't frequently have an negative experience with that. because most of my friends are intuitive, and they're like, I don't know why I wanted to give you this. And I'm like, yeah, I was just thinking about it.
I need to, okay, so let me get out of this real quick. This one is a quick one because we had a class that was on Cusp, which is the spiritual path that Eric and I developed almost 27 years ago. I tried to post the link and it wouldn't let me because it thinks that it's spam. But thecuspway.com is the link. We don't have to go deeply into this because there's lots of reading material out there. The website's free. There's a book that he and I wrote called Cusp, A New Way to Walk an Old Path, and that's available on Amazon. And this is a way of using the 8 agricultural holidays to create positive manifestation in your life every year. And so that's, it's something we've done for over 2 decades very successfully, that we have cusp practitioners all over the world, and it's wonderful. And that's all I got to say about it. I don't know if Dahlia has anything to say, but that's my thing.
I'm a huge fan, but not a practitioner, so I don't have anything to say about it. I love anything that adheres to the natural rhythms and flows of life. So I'm all for it. That's what I have. But here's the link in YouTube for the book. And
it wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
I actually got this comment has failed to post to Crossroads of Cognizance, and I've had that happen to me before. When I tried to post a link, I think it's because I'm not signed in as an admin. So, yeah.
Well, problem remedy.
I just got your message. Sorry. So the next thing is kind of a universal thing, I believe, and that is how to. And what had happened was we had I think a run of people that were struggling with how to manage the viewpoints and practices of others, not just magical practices, but human practices, and whether we should superimpose somebody else's thoughts and viewpoints and practices over our own as being superior, or if we should die on that hill, or, how do we have something we really believe in and embody, but still be open to what other people are doing and what other people think, and successfully integrate that when necessary. We have a lot of people that are just so locked into what they believe that everything just bounces right off of them. They don't want to hear anything else. And we want to be evolved people. We want to grow. And part of that growing and learning is growing and learning through our experiences with other people. An example is when I read the thing about boundaries, about how people love. That's something I'd never considered before, and it became very important. And I just had a talk with a friend of mine who is an Aries and is very,
boy, damn it, yeah,
very strongly and feels very strongly about things that she wants to defend, and I just don't. And that's why I don't go on message boards very often at all. Not that we call them message boards anymore, but groups. I don't go into groups that are, a lot of magical groups, and especially pagan groups, are very vehement about their beliefs, and they will argue that shit into the ground. As I used the term before, they'll die on that hill, and they want to convince you that what they believe is correct. And I'm just not in that place.
Same.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Good on you. I'm glad that works for you. It does not work for me. It's not part of my paradigm. But yeah. You. And so when they start trying to push that and they want me to fight or defend my belief, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I don't need other people to sign on to what I believe for it to be valid for me. And I'm not eager to invest the energy to convince anybody into what I feel or what I think.
So we've tackled this in different ways. We talked about sort of the levels of spirituality when you get in and you want to wake everybody up. So I feel like that's pushing an idea, a thought process, etc. And then with this particular topic, I actually found myself partially in this kind of conversation yesterday. So there's another documentary called Love Has Won. And that one is about a group that engages with channeling and angels and aliens and all of these things. And I was talking to this individual about how similar the things that they were saying to the things that I say and the things that I engage with and things I've taken them to. And they were like, well, what do you, I mean, just what do you believe after seeing something like that, where the end of the documentary is, please go check it out. It's wild. Um, but how do you believe? And I was like, I believe differently. Like at the point that anything I'm channeling starts trying to harm me, we have a problem. If it tells me to stop eating regular food and live on colloidal silver, I'm not going to listen.
Oh,
Like
now you're
that.
mad at Mother God, aren't you? The green lady.
Right. So I love that you said, and I guess that's how I can kind of phrase, I'm going to borrow that from you. I don't feel the need to convince anybody of the way that I believe. Even in healing sessions, I'm like, listen, this is what I'm getting, but if that doesn't resonate with you, then it doesn't. I mean, there's different ways of tackling the same kind of energies and frequencies. This is why every religion believes in a different kind of God. Um, and I feel like those who need to defend this might sound a little offensive, but I would question the security in what they believe as part of
Yes.
their defensiveness. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what are you trying to protect? I believe that belief systems and the way that we are, who we are, is supposed to evolve. And so if you're not willing to kind of hold it up side by side from something and say, oh, I just learned something, or oh, I just learned something else, or no, none of that is for me, then I mean, you're just not going to grow. And that's not, we're here to grow. That's what I got.
That's really good. I do like that very much because, it really comes down to what is it about me believing differently you that's threatening?
Right.
That's what I would wonder. So
Yeah.
our next one is kind of an easy one too. It's on self-care and endings when relationships end, even romantic or friendship or parental or whatever it might be. If we're having to get the loss of a job, whatever has ended, how do we practice good self-care for that? And you and I are both, I think, on the same page with this. It's all about, like you're doing, making sure you're drinking enough water, doing the executive function things that will keep you healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You can dive into that quart of Ben and Jerry's if that's what's going to bring you joy and comfort in this right now, if that's what you need to practice good self-care. But it's also about objectifying the situation at some point in that healing process so that you can really think about what purpose that situation or relationship served.
Mm-hmm.
How did it further yours, even if it ended horribly? How did it further your life progress process? And and you don't necessarily have to know where you're going from here. I just wrote a piece for my Substack where I identified 3 pivotal times in my life where everything just got flipped. I mean, just leveled, where I had no clue where I was going. All 3 times I ended up in a better place eventually. It took time,
Mm-hmm.
but I did. And all 3 were pivotal things that needed to happen to get me to where I am now. And that didn't stop it from being extremely painful and disruptive and terrifying. And I think we have to just acknowledge those feelings that, yeah, this is really hard and I don't quite know what to do. And all of this comes down to just trusting the process. Sometimes those endings happen despite your best effort, despite you fighting so hard, and you
Mm-hmm.
just feel it all just sifting through your hands like disappearing sand that just dissolves.
My only addendums to that are that piece again on mental load. So I didn't really go into it like in terms of explanation, but anything that you can offload onto a calendar, or have a friend check in on you if they have the if they have the emotional bandwidth to do so. And if you are a person who doesn't like engaging with your emotions, I have a lot of clients that are like, God, I'm tired. I don't want to cry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
To set a timer to reassure yourself that you will spend the time. Set it for 20 minutes, or if that's too much, 10. And if you return to that same spot every day for 10 minutes, something is going to meet you there, and you'll start to get some of those awarenesses and insights that Katrina is talking about, and maybe further your healing journey that way. Also, you can go get a massage or a occupational therapy stretch, and that will make you cry, guaranteed.
Right. Yep.
So
And
that's what.
journal. Write all that stuff out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So here's our last one. How to vibe high and still honor our emotions. Because
Ah,
and I think the notion behind this particular one, it was about people that believe that if you vibe high, if you're a high vibrational person, you don't ever get mad, you don't ever get hurt, you don't ever get disappointed, that you only have those positive emotions. And we were like, yeah, no, baby.
no, that's garbage. Yeah, there's not much more to say to that. I mean, I to add to that, in the last maybe 6 months, I've been having conversations with people about sacred anger and how anger causes change within things. It helps you see where you may be taken advantage of or where the pain is really coming from. And so accessing your anger rather than telling yourself you shouldn't be angry is very important. And the spiritual narcissism piece
I'm
is
not
so.
sure why I put that in there. It was part of the construct, and I can't remember where it fell.
I'm recalling vaguely a situation where you have these gurus and people telling you that you can't be a particular way, that you need to emulate them in some kind of way,
Oh, yeah.
and people feeling less than because of such education. And so we were
Mhm.
really, I remember that show being about, like, if you honor your emotions, number one, you are still high vibration, but two, you're probably a lot higher vibration than you think,
Mhm.
because you're not being weighed down by blocks and issues that would normally hold you back.
Agreed.
So you don't necessarily drop in vibration. It's just a different kind of awareness. It's like being thrust into a different dimension of a different emotion, rather. So it's like a lateral move instead of a vertical one.
Mhm,
That makes
mhm,
sense.
mhm.
So
I can see that. And it's just so important to understand that when you're experiencing heavy emotion, which you're going to because you are still alive and you are
yep.
still living a life and you're still having experiences. When you have those emotions, that is part of life. That's part of a spiritual life. And what matters is how you respond to them. What behaviors and thoughts do those emotions bring about? And if you're angry, it's okay to be angry. It's not okay to kill somebody because you're angry. You have to really go into how that anger is going to further the situation. And like you were saying, there's sacred anger, there's righteous anger. And sometimes that anger is necessary to get you past a situation you didn't need to be in the first place.
Mhm.
So anger can help you evolve. It can help you move to a different place. I think if we never ever got angry, that's not somebody I'd want to be around, because to me they're not living an authentic life. There's something that they're painting over, and all that's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So that's our 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 100 episodes later, all of these topics, it's so funny how I think for me the topics that were hard to kind of dive deep into or remember are not as important anymore.
Mm,
Either I don't hear about them as often or don't engage with them. I mean, so that's personal importance. If any of you are going through those things, definitely continue your journey, seek out help. This isn't a better than situation, but more like a realignment of focus. But it has been like, through all of those, we're really emotional.
they were
Um,
very emotional and all about betterment, all about getting to the other side.
yeah, yeah. So, gosh, what is 101 gonna be? Who knows? But you guys will have to tune in for that. If you liked any of these topics, go back, watch those episodes, check them out. And for now, we will catch you on 101 episodes of Crossroads of Cognizance. Bye, everybody.
Everybody.